Welcome to our first ever episode of our podcast that we are starting today, the Juliana and Brooklyn Show. Now give it up for my co-host, Brooklyn. Say hi, Brooklyn. Hey everyone, I'm so happy to be on this podcast and be helping my best friend Juliana with this podcast and being co-host. I'm really excited to see where this takes us today. So am I, Brooklyn. I'm super excited to see what happens with this podcast and how well we do and if we continue even doing this, because this is like my first time trying a podcast with my best friend and I'm super excited. For disclaimer, me and Brooklyn have never done a podcast before, so like if we do sound terrible or have bad quality, it's our first time and this is just us working on it. So, if you have any tips and you want to leave them in the comments, we are totally up for that. So let's get started. Okay, so Brooklyn, let's start with the first question that probably everyone's wondering. Who are you and how did we probably become friends? Because, I'm all over Instagram and stuff and people know me from Instagram, but they don't really know you. So let's start with you. Okay, so hi, I'm Brooklyn. I'm 21 years old and I literally met Juliana when we were in high school. I grew up in Willow Creek, but we moved to Oasis Springs when I was 13. And my parents really wanted to see where I would end up. And you know what? I went to high school, and that's where I met my best friend, Juliana. And we've been friends ever since. But it's been tough at times. I won't lie. It's been tough to, work around things. And we've had our fights and our disagreements. But in the end, we've always been best friends, and it's so great. Thank you, Brooklyn, for telling everyone that. But I do want to ask you a question. What was it like growing up in Willow Creek as a child? Because, I never really got the story from you when we were in high school, so I want to know now, what was it like? Well, as everyone probably knows, Willow Creek is a very small town. It's very humble. It's very, it feels like home. Everyone knows each other. Everyone's great. We had such great neighbors when I was growing up. It was just my dad had some problems with financials, and he needed to go somewhere where he could work and spend time with his family. And you know what? Oasis was the place, we thought. And you know what? It was great growing up in Willow Creek. I grew up with a great family, great neighborhood, great everything. It was just the money part with my family. They were just struggling with money, and it was hard for them. And you know what? Looking back on it, I'm so happy we did move because I would have never gotten the experience I did for high school. It sounds like you grew up very happy and very pleasantly, I would say, and I feel like that's great. And I understand what you mean by the high school part. There were some experiences that you did have growing up in high school. Would you like to touch on those a bit and see what people think about it? There was a time that me and Juliana weren't friends, is what she means by experiences and what I mean, where in the first few months of high school, I had joined this friend group they were just mean, I would say. They were rude, they were sassy, they were everything that I really didn't want to be in the end. But I wanted to be friends with them, so I joined their group, and they let me in. And, it was great for the time being, but then I learned slowly that this is not the group I want to be in. And one day, we got into a huge fight, and Juliana was there to experience it. And honestly, it was traumatizing for me, honestly. And it was only the first few months of me being in high school, which is even scarier because I'm new to this school. And it happens within the few months that I've been in this school. And that's so terrifying. I remember the fight like it was yesterday. It was honestly terrifying to be there for it because I was like, oh my God, is this girl okay? Is she going to be fine? And, some people might be confused in the comments, like, what are we talking about? But I'm going to let Brooklyn get into that now. So one day I showed up to school and, I think it was, I would say December. I want to say around December that I showed up. And I was wearing this really nice winter coat. And I thought, ooh, the girls are going to love this, right? And so I go into class and I sit down and, I take off my coat. And my best friend that at the time was like, hey, where'd you get your coat? I was like, oh, I got it from North Face. It was really nice. It was $100. My mom bought it for Christmas. And she's like, oh, well, I want it now. I was like, well, they sell them at North Face. And she was like, no, I want yours. And I'm like, what do you mean? This is my jacket. I need this. I'm cold. It's from my mom. It's a present. And she was like, no, I want it. So give it to me. You're my best friend. And I was like, I'm not going to give you my jacket. So then we go to lunch and she tells me hey, loser, you can't sit with us anymore. And I'm like, why not? And she's like, because you wouldn't give me your jacket. And I was like, it's a jacket. Chill. I didn't want to give it to you because it's a present for my mom and it was really special. And I've always wanted one. And she was like, yeah, well, now I want it. So then, like, the end of the day comes, and I go to my locker, and I go to get the jacket, and it's been cut up. Like, the sleeves are cut off of it, there's rips in it, and I'm like, what the hell has happened to this gift my mom gave me? So I go to my best friend at the time, and I'm like, hey, what the hell did you do? And she's like, well, you didn't want to give me the jacket, so I just ripped it up for you and made it worse. Merry Christmas. And I was sobbing the whole way home, and it was so awful to have to tell my mom what happened to this jacket that she bought me. When you told me this, I was so shocked by this. I was like, wow, I cannot believe someone is that cruel to do this. But, like, it's so, like, crazy how she was so jealous over a damn jacket. Like, that was the thing back in high school that would making people, like, popular and shit with jackets and clothes and stuff. And we all wanted to be the popular one. But in the end, like, does it really matter? Like, if you're popular or not? Or, like, does it really matter if you stand out? Like, it's just a jacket, and I couldn't believe she did that much to make you that sad on that very day. And I was, like, shocked. And you know what? Ever since then, Brooklyn's been so much happier. And I'm so happy that you joined our friend group and that we became so close in the end. Yeah, and it, like, shocks me to this day. Like, she just wanted to cause drama, and she just wanted to be, like, the best person in the world, and she couldn't be that if I had this jacket, according to her. And, you know, it escalated more than that. She was jealous of me. People were telling me. I had one time had her boyfriend come up to me at the end of the day and say hi to me and, like, talk to me, and she was like, what are you doing with her? Like, she's a new girl. Like, nobody cares. And, like, we were still friends at this time, but I was like, what the hell was that about? She was mad because her boyfriend just came up to me. Like, it's not that deep, girl. And I felt like she doesn't get that. Like, she never got that in high school, and she thought, oh, I'm going to be the best in the world. But, like, it really doesn't matter how good you are as a person or how good you look. It's what's on the inside, I feel like, that matters the most. And in high school, you just don't see that from people, and it's really crazy to think about because I grew up in a household where everyone believed in each other, everyone trusted each other, and then to come to high school and have that happen to me, I was like, this is probably not the place for me. But I'm so happy I stuck it out and came back the next day because I was honestly thinking about dropping out in that moment. Honestly, it'd be an understatement to say that I'm proud of you because I'm more than proud of you for just being the person you are and sticking it out and just not letting someone take you down and coming back the next day and showing up even better than you were before and being happy. No tears in your eyes, no sadness, ignoring her. And that was the time, like, we became, like, best friends, was because, like, I came up to you and I was like, hey, I saw what happened yesterday. Like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. And you were like, it's all good, don't worry about it. But I was so upset and so frustrated with that girl because I was like, why would you do that? Why would you do that to a poor girl who just moved schools and now is probably traumatized from this? Because, like, it was not even, like, that big of a deal back then in my head now. But, like, back then in our time, it was, like, hugely a big thing. And it's crazy to think about how high school can change you as a person. The people you're around, the way you live your life in high school, it just changes your perspective on things. And that's what's so crazy about it. Yeah, it also gets you thinking, like, what if that never happened? What if you never had these experiences in high school? Would you be the person you are today? Would you be the strong person you could be today? Like, if you didn't have things take you down in high school and you just lived this perfect world in high school, are you going to be that perfect girl? Or are you going to be, like, upset and, like, sad that you never had, like, experiences in high school? We had so many, and we could get into so many on this podcast. But, like, for now, it's just, I wanted to tell my story and how I lived in high school and how I lived my life before even coming to freaking Oasis Springs, and I'm so happy I got to talk about that today on the podcast. And I'm so happy that we even had the idea of starting this podcast because without you, honestly, I feel like this podcast would be so boring. And I can't wait to see how far we take this podcast and how well we do in this podcast, like, era that we're in. But anyways, like, I'm so happy to have you as my co-host, and I'm so happy to live with you now in, like, New Crest and moved out of Oasis, and we'll get into that more in the later episodes in our journey as people and our stories that we have to tell. But, like, for episode 1, I just wanted to, like, sit down and, like, talk about you because people know me from Instagram and who I am as a person, but like they don't really know you, so I wanted to get them to know you for the first episode. But in our later episodes, we'll tell more high school stories that we have, like drama that we have coming up in our lives and things that happen. And I cannot wait to just experience this with you, Brooklyn, because you are literally my best friend in the whole wide world. And I'm so happy to have started this with you and started this journey together. Me too, Juliana, and honestly, the later episodes are going to be so fun to make because we're going to have so much fun telling all the drama and all our high school experiences that we had together, and, our just journey in this life. I can't wait to experience it with you because, like, literally we are, like, inseparable now, and it's so amazing. And we're still thinking about, like, podcast names, like, what we should name our show, but, like, for right now, it's called the Brooklyn and Juliana Show, or the Juliana and Brooklyn Show, whatever you want to go with. But you know what? I'm just so excited to go on this with you and see how far we take this, really. I think that was a good introduction for today, like a good starter for our podcast, I feel like. So if you did enjoy this podcast, please do give us a like and comment down below what some of our podcast names could be. And also, like, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And if you want to see more drama and more tea that happens in our life, please continue watching.